and I think I shared with you guys last week when we were talking that the big thing about Unit 4 is the skills, is making inferences, knowing when you're supposed to use transitional words and phrases, the parallel structure, and here we go. All right, so when you use these transitional words and phrases, there are times when you need to show connections between information. And so the ones we use most commonly, guys, are these, and you guys even use these in your writing. I've seen several of these used, like however, and for example, in the end, and therefore. I've seen these in your writing. But these are the most common transitional words and phrases that are used. And when you use these words, you put commas after them. So what I'm going to say to you guys is that when you use these words, make sure that you use commas after them. There are some words that you can just go ahead and write and you keep on writing with them. But then there are other words that you have to use a comma, especially if you're doing like in a series, you know, first, then, last, next. Those things, you don't really have to use a comma. It depends on how it's stated in the sentence. So you have to be really careful with the content or the context of your sentence, depending on when you would use a comma. And if you look at this one, oh, someone's trying to get in. Let's see. Hopefully she can get in this time. When you want to show the relationship between a sample and what it refers to, I saw a huge horseshoe shape over the door. So the example of a horseshoe is the shape of the letter U. So that can have an embellishment. So I saw a huge horseshoe shape over the door. For an example, a horseshoe is the shape of the letter U. So when we use that for example, here, you don't have to use that comma. An example of it, we don't really use the for. An example is the horseshoe is the shape of a letter U. So we don't, it's just another way of showing the example, but it doesn't use that for example. It's written in a different way. So things can also be written in a different way, but another example, the way it's written, we need a comma. As an example, comma, as evidenced by, you may not need a comma for this because it depends on how you write it. As evidenced by the, let me see, as evidenced by the shape of the horseshoe, it looks like a U. I wouldn't need a comma with that. So again, it depends on the context of what you're doing. All right, showing similarities and difference, which compare and contrast is the same thing. You know, they just use different academic language for both, but they're both the same thing. When you're comparing things, these are the words that you would use for that. The process of writing, such as a how-to, like a recipe, how to make a mask, how to build a house, those type things. These words will be used in that type of writing. And it's just the steps in a process, how things are being put together. So that is when you would use these words. What happened and why it happened. Cause and effect. You know, something happens and you have to tell me why it happens. These are the words that you would use in that. So when you think about these transitional words, think about the order that they would be. Would they be at the beginning of the cause and effect when you're talking about it? Would they be in the middle? So you have to decide where these would be. Now, if I talk about the horseshoe fell from the door and as a result, my brother has a knot on his head, you know? So that means, what does that mean? What happened? Well, the horseshoe fell and hit my brother on the head. That's what happened. So when I say as a result, he has a knot on his head, that means that it fell and it hit him on the head. He acts like somebody kicked him in the head. So it just goes with it. That's just the as a result part for me. So the based on the results of the survey, Most children love candy. So I don't necessarily need a comma after based on. So those are some of the things. It depends on the context in which you write. So just always pay attention to how you use these words in a sentence. You may need a comma, you may not. All right, so parallel structures. Parallel structures, guys, they're structures when you write that it doesn't mean they have to be exactly the same, but they have to be in a structure that means the same thing. So if we look at this first sentence, the group must decide whether to take a train, ride the bus, or drive the car. Okay, so we have the faulty parallel structure: take a train, on the bus, find someone to drive the car. And then we say the group must decide whether to take the train, on the bus, or finding someone to drive the car. So we have to decide which one of these is parallel. So we know that the commonality is transportation. We know it's the train, it's the bus, and the car. So the group must decide whether to take the train, whether to ride the bus, or whether to drive the car. So all three of those are of a parallel structure because the group is trying to decide how they're going to travel. And in that, we have three modes of transportation and the way that they happen, because we don't drive the train, we don't drive the bus, but we do drive the car. So the question then begins, are they going to find someone to drive the car, or is someone going to drive the car? Because again, it's the parallel structure. It's about how you're going to think about it. So the sentence at the bottom says the group must decide whether to take a train, ride the bus, or drive the car. So all three are about transportation, and all three are about how they're going to get to a particular place. It didn't tell us the place, it wasn't specific, but how they're going to travel. Are they going to ride? Are they going to take the train? Or are they going to drive a car? So the parallelness is about the transportation. So another thing we are going to be studying, or you need to know about, is drawing conclusions and making inferences. So I'm going to read this to you, and I want you guys to think about it for just a second. After making a speech about the importance of studying, the instructor started passing the graded exams back to the class. Pausing by Jack's desk, he said, "Jack, I'd like to speak with you for a moment after class." Hearing this, Jack puts his head down on the desk. What are the significant details from the reading? That is my first question. So I want you guys to type in the chat what you think is the significant details from the reading. What are the significant details? And so this is going to tell me your background knowledge, what you know already that you can apply to this. What are some things that you can type into the chat that makes the significant details in this text come out? What are the significant details? Can anybody still see that? So if you'll type your answers into the text, what are the significant details? What are the big things? Okay, the importance of studying, grades were given out. The teacher asked to speak to Jack. Okay. Past graded exams, the instructor wanted to talk to Jack. Jack put his hand down, perfect. Instructor passed out grade exams. Teacher telling Jack he needs to speak with him. Words of studying, grades, past grades, back exams, and speak to Jack. Okay, so what are some of your own experiences related to the reading? Based on your experience, how can you relate to the reading? Just failed the test, okay? Jack didn't do well. It's usually not good when the teacher wants to talk to you. Well, my goodness, I sometimes I want to talk to my students and it's not bad. It's usually not good. By failing a test, by not studying, having to await results of the test you've taken. Okay. So what conclusions can be made? And we can verbally answer this one. So what conclusions can we make or can be drawn based on the significant details you guys pulled out and from your own experiences? What do we know or what do we think we know because of all of those things? If you can raise your hands. I will be able to call on you if you raise your hands. Does everybody know where to raise their hands from? If you go, if you go to, I'll tell you in just a second. Let me make this big. I think it says reactions. Do you see at the bottom where it says reactions?
Oh, yes, I see that.
If you, okay, Ralph, what do you think?
I think it shows the teacher wants to talk to Jack about his poor grade on the test.
Okay, anybody else? Dana?
I think maybe she does want to talk to him about his poor grade, but to see what the issue might be because of the poor grade.
Well, how are we even assuming that he made a poor grade? Where is that coming from?
Well, considering you like to trick us, that could be an option.
Nathaniel. Nathaniel, you're muted. Nathaniel, you're muted, sweetie. Can you unmute?
I'm not really sure what has me under Nathaniel.
Oh, you're not. Who is this?
This is Haley. I'm not sure why.
Girl, I don't know why you're Nathaniel either. I was like, who is, look, in the whole time I was looking at my grade book like, Lord, who is Nathaniel?
Yeah,
Okay, Haley.
That's my boyfriend's Zoom, but I don't know why it's linked to my account.
Oh, okay. So Haley, what are those clues that makes us think he did badly?
I don't know. I guess from experience, like if a teacher wants to talk to you after class about a graded test, it's kind of just assumed to be a bad thing.
Okay. But what about Jack? What about Jack's reaction? What do we know about Jack's reaction and what happened? Kayla?
He had put his head down after the teacher had asked to speak to him.
Yes, he did. He put his head down, and when you get a test paper, you go, "Oh Lord!" I mean, because I know I've done it myself a few times. So yes, so to us, based on our own experience, when you drop your head down after you get a paper back, it must mean you didn't do well. If the teacher says, I want to speak to you after class, we make the assumption that he didn't do well. So I would agree with you guys. So I'm going to go to the next one. All right. I have to make this where I can read everything, guys. Sorry. I'm going to pull this to the bottom. Come on out. Come on out. Come on out. Come on out. I'm going to pull you to the bottom. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to use somewhere else because you are in my way. There you go. All right. So Jan decided she pulled out her credit card again to pay for the groceries that were already bagged. She didn't want to use her credit card, but she needed groceries for the week. She decided then and there to attend a meeting on how to manage her money. So what are some significant details from this reading? And we're just going to do it verbally this time. What are some significant details from this reading?
She didn't want to use her credit card.
She did not want to use her credit card. And what do we know by experiences of why she may not have wanted to use her credit card? And I need some people who have not really been answering to kind of pipe up a little bit. Shannon, why would she maybe not want to use her credit card?
Maybe she has money troubles and she's finding it hard to budget her money and everything.
Yes. Courtney, what do you think?
I think maybe because, I mean, like she said, she's gotten into some trouble with her credit cards before. So she's trying not to use them.
Okay, I agree with that. It says she decided then and there to attend a meeting on how to manage her money. And so, you know, there's nothing else to say about that other than, yes, she's got in trouble with her money before, and she does not want to use that credit card because she's had trouble with her credit cards before. We all know the biggest debt you could possibly have is credit card debt. So yes, I fully agree with that. All right, so this is something that I did with previous classes. This is not something that I see with you all, but I feel like it's valuable to go over it. We were all very much excited about the fireworks on the 4th of July. I did not see this in this class's papers, but I want to go over it just in case, you know, when you're going through, because guys, we often write the way we speak. And sometimes we don't have to put those things into our writing. So here we were all very much excited about the fireworks on the 4th of July. So what I don't need is very much. I can just write, we were all excited about the fireworks on the 4th of July. Well, the 4th of July is a what? Is that a holiday? So it's a proper noun. So wouldn't 4th have to be capitalized?
Yes. Yes.
It would be. So, and I want to go back because I did see this. When we were doing rice for Thanksgiving, some people were not capitalizing Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a proper noun. So Thanksgiving does have to be capitalized. So just like 4th of July, this 4th has to be capitalized because it's a proper noun. Recognizing that the window was broken. This is a fragment. Can somebody tell me why it's a fragment?
It doesn't really say like if a person recognized it, when recognized it, anything like that.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't start this sentence with recognizing. I recognize the window was broken. The teacher recognized the window was broken. There is nobody there to recognize that the window was broken. So that's exactly right. The spider was in the windowsill. Can the spider be in the windowsill?
No, it can only be on the windowsill.
Exactly, on the windowsill. So this is not something that I necessarily have seen in this group's papers, but this is something I put in because these are some common areas that I usually have to cover, but you guys don't have these issues, so I'm not gonna say much about those. So this is some things that I have said several times to many classes, so I'm just gonna give you the reminders as well. Plan your papers, follow the process of your planning, stay on topic. When you are planning your papers and you have those 3-body paragraphs, stay on topic within those paragraphs. You can't jump around. If you're talking about apples in paragraph 1, you can't talk about oranges because oranges are in paragraph 2. Only apples in 1, oranges in 2, bananas in the last one. Stay on your topic. When in doubt, write simple sentences. What I have seen is a bunch of run-on sentences, and I have seen some comma splices. So try very hard. If you got a paper that's awesome, guys, and you end up with like a 98 or a 95 or something like that, that's because I've seen some grammatical errors. And it's only because I have to take off for those grammatical errors. And I don't take off a lot for them, but I do take off for them. Be very careful with your comma usage. Also, be careful with semicolons and make sure you're using them in the correct way. Even if you have to go back and read the rules on semicolons, colons, and commas, please do so. Because I have to mark off for those. And like I said, I don't count off a lot for them because there's simple common errors, and I just don't take off a lot for those because it just is what it is. Because if your paper's great, but if you have like common simple errors throughout, I take off maybe 1 or 2 points for those, depending on how big the error is. So, it doesn't take off a lot in the real scheme of things, but you are having those errors. Read your final product twice before submitting it. Now, I do think that there are some people that if they put their paper away for an hour or 2 and came back and looked at it, I think you'd find your own errors. So I'm going to ask that, before you can still send it to me to look over, but before you send it in to me, because I am going to help you edit, but I'm not going to help you edit all of your errors out, because I feel some of your errors that if you came back and looked at it, you would find them yourself. So I have to make you responsible for some of it. So I want you to be able to come back a little while later, look at your paper and say, oh, you know what, we forgot this error. And then read your NROC rubric to make sure you're writing about the right topic. So as we get more into the course, your reading will have absolutely nothing to do with the topic you have to write about. And and that just is what it is. It's just how the course is made up. And it may be a time I won't require you to do the reading. We'll just look over the rubric, talk about the writing, and you just go right into the writing. So that is pretty much it, I think, for Unit 4. And now we're going to get into the writing assignment. Like I said, this is about social media, friend or foe, and everybody was supposed to read the article before we came to class tonight. So I am going to go out of the PowerPoint and go back to the course. As you can see it's still running slow. So let's see. Okay, this is your class. So guys, if you look over here, you can see that I have everything up to unit 6 on the sidebar now. So you can always work a little bit ahead if you choose to, because I already have everything over here for tier 1. Tier 1 is completely over here except for the videos of the class. So I'm going to click on social media friend or foe. You no longer have to look at NROC for this article. I already copied and pasted it to your links. So you should be able to see everything in the link now. Once you click on the link, you're going to have your article, which you see is still here. I'm not going to read the article because I told you guys to read it before we came to class. So here you have what you're supposed to do. So you have to decide whether social media is a friend or if it is a foe. It is a 5-paragraph essay. So again, I'm asking you to plan your paper in a tree map. I want you to take a screenshot or snippet and send it to me via email or in a text. And the only reason I'm having you guys to send it to me because I want to see your thinking, okay? And remember, when you're writing your paragraphs, you need to have a transition sentence that leads from one paragraph to the other so it kind of flows. And you do have to have a thesis statement or a topic sentence that states your stance as you start to write in your first paragraph. Your closing should be a restatement of your opening with a bit of elaboration of your reading. And of course, you guys should know it. You have to make an 80% or above to move on to the assessment. So here again, we're here again to the writing assignment and what you have to do. So it says that your response should be persuasive because you have to remember who your audience is going to be. And you're trying to persuade someone to think the same way that you do about social media. So you have to be detailed. You have to show various points, and you want to stay in the same topic. You don't want to say, well, I'm for it, but yeah, I'm against it too. You have to choose your lane and stay in your lane. And then you need logical evidence that backs up your opinion. What are some things that you know for sure that are facts, not opinion, but that are facts that can back up your claims that social media is a friend or a foe? It should explain your view. It tells you right here, the first paragraph will offer an interesting introduction of social media topic and your take on it. So your very first paragraph is your intro, and it's going to give your stance in it with your topic sentence. Is going to set up the rest of your paper. And then it says the following 3 paragraphs, you should have main points, which are going to be your 3 reasons. And then you're going to develop assertions and evidence to support them. Those are your supporting details under your 3 reasons. And then you have the analysis explaining how the evidence supports the main point. And each paragraph should have a topic sentence that clearly states your point and details to support or prove the point. All right, and you should have transitions between paragraphs that show why each point appears in this order. So just think carefully about it as you're putting it together. And then at the end of your last paragraph, you should include a concluding remark that gives a final interesting thought on your topic. So make sure you look closely and use the rubric if you need to, guys. If you need to have this rubric up somewhere as you're writing, have it up. And just use it as you go through it. And so here it says you have to make an 80% or above to move on to unit 5. But like we talked about before, I'm going to go ahead and introduce unit 5 tonight so you guys can kind of be working on both of these simultaneously, because some people have already completed unit 4. And I'm going to go ahead and teach unit 5 tonight as well. So give me just a second to pull that up. All right, so in Unit 5, we're going to talk about compound sentences, complex sentences, and modifiers. And some of these things you already know, so I'm not going to go through this in its entirety, but you will have access to all of these PowerPoints in the links that I've set up. So everything that I talk about tonight, you have access to already in the Unit 4 and Unit 5 links. So simple sentences, guys, we know have one predicate, one subject, and its end. So we have here in the example, one class is putting on a play, I want to be the lion. So we have two simple sentences, but if we wanted to be a little smoother, our class is putting on a play and I want to be the lion. It sounds better because we pause with a comma instead of completely stopping. Because the less smooth sentence says our class is putting on a play. I want to be the lion. We come to a complete stop and then read the second sentence. But with a more smooth sentence, we just pause for like a second and keep going. We say, and I want to be the lion. So that is what they mean when they say making the compound sentences and adding and. And sometimes they want us to just put a comma or add the subordinating conjunctions to make the sentence even smoother. Okay, so if you look at the bottom of this one, it says, I get nervous. I breathe deeply to stay calm. Then the smoother sentence says, when I get nervous, I breathe deeply to stay calm. And here they only put the comma. And the reason they only put the comma is because we have that brief pause and it keeps going. But they add when at the beginning. When I get nervous, I breathe deeply to stay calm. And then here, when I get nervous, I breathe deeply to stay calm. Or I breathe deeply to stay calm when I feel nervous. They change the order of the words. And so when I've worked with some people on their writing, I've said, sometimes you just have to change the order of the words and it sounds better. So you just sometimes have to play with words in order for them to be the way that you would like them to be or to sound better. So here are some examples of compound sentences. Mary doesn't like cartoons because they are loud, so she doesn't watch them. I have often wanted to drown my troubles, but I can't get my wife to go swimming. Did anybody get that the first time?
Yes.
Is that you, Ralph?
Yes, it is.
Do you feel like that sometime? I'm just asking. I know I used to feel that way. I want him to go swimming every day. I
just have a weird sense of humor. My wife is actually pretty wonderful.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, but I want him to go swimming every day. Okay, Michael did not like to read. She was not very good at it. And then Dr. Mark said I could come to his office on Friday or Saturday of next week. So we can clearly see what the two sentences are, but we have instances where there are commas. We have instances where there are two periods. We have an instance where there's no period, but they're still considered to be compound sentences. And then we get into the complex sentences. So here you have dependent clauses with a conjunction. So I washed the car after I came home. But what if I wanted to say after I came home, I washed the car? Does that make that any different?
Yes, you.
Okay, so listen, because the dependent clause is I came home. because I came home is not an independent thought. I washed the car is an independent clause. And it's a complete thought. I washed the car. That can stand alone. I came home, it can't. So I washed the car after I came home. We use that conjunction to make that dependent clause fit better. He went to see a doctor because he was sick. So if I just said he was sick, what do we add to it? We have, he went to see a doctor. Can I put a period behind he went to see a doctor?
A comma?
Well, it's an independent clause because it's a complete thought. He went to see a doctor. He was sick is dependent. It needs something else, which is why we put that conjunction there. Because he was sick. He went to the doctor because he was sick. So even though she was late, even though we're adding, she was late, she managed to complete the assignment. So even though she was late, she managed to complete the assignment. So complex and compound sentences, you know, sometimes we have to use those conjunctions, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we can use a comma. It's a tricky thing, but I think it's something easy that we all manage to get, because there's sometimes though, we get happy with the commas and we can't get happy with the commas. Because that's when we run into having comma splices, and we run into having just way too many commas in a sentence. I'll just say that because I've had several people who I've had like 50 words in one sentence, and then there's like 4 commas. That's not what that's not what a sentence makes. So I'm going to just flip through these because these are like practice that you guys can go through. And this is one example. We needed a dog for the play. My puppy Angus got the part. Can somebody tell me what you think they did to that sentence? Can anybody tell me what we did with that sentence there?
Added "and"
Where do we put it?
when needed a dog for the play, and my puppy Angus got the part.
Okay. Can anybody tell me how we can use when?
My puppy Angus got the part when we needed a dog for the play.
Does that sound smooth?
No, kind of.
So can we say when we needed a dog for the play, comma, my puppy Angus got the part?
Yeah.
So just think about the way it sounds. And then what about Angus trotted on the stage? We all knew a star was born. What can we say?
When Angus trotted onto the stage, we all knew a star was born.
Perfect, yes. When Angus trotted on the stage, comma, we all knew a star was born. Perfect. And I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna go through all of those. Those are just some practice things. And they are there if you want to practice on those. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about modifiers. And a lot of you use these in your writing. And sometimes when I'm working with someone, I have to take them out because it makes it where it's too many words, and it just messes up some of your flow. Modifiers are not always used, so, or needed for that matter. The easiest way to modify how you look is to change your hairstyle or get a haircut. So every year, car companies try to make some small modifications in their car models. So, you know, we have to change some things. Modifiers are descriptive words we sometimes use that we just really don't need. So Emily, who hates classical music, went to the Beethoven concert with me. So what I don't need is who hates classical music. I don't really need to know that. I just need to know that Emily went to Beethoven's concert with me. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know that she hates it. So that's one of those things when I'm working with people, I have to take out the extra words because, okay, she hates it, but I really don't need to know that. So those are like some of the things that can make your writing smoother. And then here, if you see here, without a doubt, Emily, my friend since first grade, is the most important person in my life. So I don't need without a doubt, and I don't need my friend since first grade. I just need to know she's the most important person in your life. So do you guys sort of get what I'm saying? So, you know, when you write, you have to try to be as specific as you can and not use so many words like very, very, or so. And, you know, I had a very bad, when I was teaching, when I was doing my doctoral study, I had a very bad habit of putting that before a lot of words. That would, that can, that this, that. And so I had to learn how to not to use that. And it was very difficult because I didn't really realize that I was using that so much. So we have to be careful with our adverbs, prepositional phrases, verbs, and adjectives. And in narrative writing, yes, we're told to use those descriptive words, but in some writing, it's not a good idea to use as many as we're told to use. So the red house, he ran quickly. Looking at the clock, he noticed that he was late. So when we're writing formally, do we need to know that he looked at the clock, or do we need to know that he noticed he was late? You know, which one do we need to know? And so it becomes that old adage of grandma putting all her jewelry and then looking in the mirror and taking some of it off, because we really don't need all of it, but we need just enough to make her look pretty, okay? The state flower in North Carolina, the state flower of North Carolina, the flowering dogwood tree, is extremely beautiful. What I don't need is extremely. I just need to know that people think it's beautiful because it tells how beautiful it is, but I don't need extremely. That's just an extra word that I don't need. So here are some examples of just getting rid of those extra words that we don't necessarily need, that you guys can kind of work through. My first day volunteering at the animal shelter went by very fast. So very tells me how fast, but do I really need very? And then here again, I love meeting Speck, the cat who was almost always excited. So I don't need to know that he's almost always excited, but I need to know the cat who was always excited to play. I don't need almost, because that's just a little too much. So I'm gonna jump ahead, and here's some more examples. And then if you go through, there's misplaced modifiers, just more things that it just kind of goes through and tells you how to use modifiers. So now I'm going to talk to you about the writing. So the writing for Unit 5 is, what does happiness mean to you? So the article is here for you, and it's called Measuring a Society's Progress. So as you read it, it's going to talk about how to measure things. Now, what you're going to measure is your happiness. What does happiness look like in your life? It may not be the basis of this paragraph, but it is the basis of what you're going to write about, okay? So you are going to write a multi-paragraph essay defining your personal criteria for happiness and exploring whether or not you have achieved happiness based on that criteria. So again, your process should be persuasive and thoughtful, detailed, and show various points that support both the criteria you have chosen to define, happiness, and discussion of how closely you currently match this definition. So have logical evidence that backs up your opinion should be used throughout. So I'm just going to give an example for a minute before I tell you what should be in your paper. So for me, happiness for me in my life is, though you still have, for me, come up with those 3 reasons. So stick with those 3 reasons. What 3 things in my life make me happy? Am I happy every single day? Absolutely not. I don't think anybody is. But what are those 3 things that if they're in place, what does it bring me joy? And do I feel a lot of happiness if they are? Of course. If my family is well and okay, that is one of my happy places. If my family, if my children are good, they're okay, nobody's struggling, nobody's having any issues. If my family is in a good place, that's one of my parts of happiness. I'm not really a material like person. I'm just not. But do I need to feel like I'm financially stable and I'm not needing for anything? Yes, I just need to be financially stable. I don't need to be a millionaire. I just need to know that I am financially stable and I can get the things that I need. And sometimes the things I want, but what I need, yes. And then that last part, to just have a job that I love to do, to have that one thing in my life that I love to do. I love to teach. It's my thing. It's my jam, so to speak, of what people usually say. So I have 3 things that make me happy. And I 100% at this point in my life, I know that they make me happy. They make me feel fulfilled, and they make me feel like everything in my life is going to be okay. If I'm financially stable, if I am, my family's good and everybody's okay. And then if I can go out and just come and just teach you guys, and I can go out and I can go teach children, I am a happy camper. I don't need any more. I don't need any less. I am great. So those would be my 3 reasons. So if I have reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3, and my first reason is that my family, I would have to explain and have supporting details about why my family meets my goal of being happy. If everybody is okay, if nobody's sick, if nobody is lacking anything, my grandchildren are around me, that is something that makes me so happy to just spoil my grandkids. So those are the things that I might talk about under my family part. And then to go to being financially stable. Being financially stable means if my family says, hey, Mom, I need this, I'm able to provide that for them. If I want something for myself, I'm able to provide that for myself. Financially comfortable. It's just being able to do what I have to do without having to struggle or borrow or to use credit cards, to just be able to have without feeling like I'm pressed about it. And then the last thing, being able to teach children and to teach adults is such a blessing. And what I get out of that, what it brings to my life in that part of that. And then just to sum that up, so my beginning, my first paragraph and my last paragraph, they talk about similar things. I just add a little bit more to my last paragraph, explaining why these things are so great to me. So when you look at the rubric and it says, the essay should clearly explain what you think it means to be happy and whether or not you are currently fit or match the definition you present. So it's asking you currently, right now, do you match that definition of what you decide what your happiness is? Because not what somebody else feels your happiness should be, but what you need to be happy. So the first paragraph, you're going to offer an interesting introduction that pulls the reader into your views on how happiness should be defined by using specific criteria. So those are those 3 things that you're going to identify that takes you to your happy place. The following 2 paragraphs need to include your main points that prove how and why your criteria define happiness, 1 per paragraph, your evidence supporting the criteria, and then analyze explaining how the evidence support each point. And then your 4th paragraph needs to discuss whether or not your situation matches the criteria you define as happiness, and answers the questions based on your definition. Are you currently happy? Okay. So it's okay if you say no. You just need to know what your measure of happiness is. And if you are not in that place right now, it's okay if you're not, because like I said, everybody's not happy every single day. People have seasons. I mean, and that's just something I believe in altogether. There's seasons where everything goes your way. You feel like you can't lose. You're the happiest you've ever been. And then there's seasons when you feel like nothing can go your way. You know the things that make you happy. You might have 2 of those things and one is just not going your way. Happiness is something that is fickle. And we may or may not have it every day, or we may. And so in your final paragraph, you should conclude your thoughts on the topic in an interesting, thoughtful way that goes beyond summary and gives your readers something to consider. So again, you have to make 80% or above to move on to Unit 6. So I feel like these 2 papers will be fairly easy for everybody to get through. If you feel like you need some extra support, of course, you can call me. We can meet on Zoom. We can do more discussion. I have no problem doing that for anyone. The only thing I ask is just make sure you text or email me, and I think by now everybody knows I'll just jump on. If you say, can we meet on Zoom? I pretty much just jump on Zoom to meet with you. So just let me know when it is you want to meet, and I'll work out a time that I can meet with you. So is there anyone who has any questions?
No.
No questions? All right, how do you feel about Unit 4 and Unit 5 writing? Do you feel like it's something that you guys can do?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
Okay. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions for me, you can go ahead and go. I think I'm supposed to meet with somebody after. So if you will stay, we'll go ahead and talk. But everybody else, you may go. Have a good night. Remember, Wednesday is a working night. You don't have to log on unless you need me for something, but just make sure you're working on a paper or an assessment. If you need an assessment, please text me or come on and say, hey, I need an assessment, and I will open it up for you.
Thank you so much. I
Have a
hope
good
you have a
night.
great night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
You too.
Dr. Buchanan?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I did want to ask, the Chapter 3 assessment hasn't been open for me.
Because I'm a bad teacher. Let me go. Let me open it up for you. Oh my God. I try to stay on top of it. Boy, you guys have been working. I'm telling you. You guys are working so hard. I go in and I think I open for everybody. And I always forget somebody, Ralph, because I knew I was supposed to do that for you.
Oh, no worries. This weekend was a little crazy anyway, so I wasn't able to get to it. So
Okay,
It's all
I'm gonna
good.
do that for you right now.
And I don't think I was the one that you were waiting to speak to, so I will get out of y'all's way. Have a
Okay,
good evening.
You too. So I'm opening it up for you right this moment. And it is open.
All righty. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Let's see.
Miss Buchanan,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have assessment 3 open either.
Oh, girl. Let's see. Let me go back. I swore I did that though.